Hi everyone. So today's lesson is going to be on talking about the finding distance on a number line and versus finding midpoint or coordinate of a midpoint on a number line. But let's take a step back. We're in geometry, right? And we've been learning about points, lines, and planes, which are the three undefined terms. So I give you this warm up. I give you this picture of a cube. And remember, the dotted lines mean it's like the back of it. It's hidden from view. And I said this was a really good way to visualize points, lines, and planes, understanding though that those three things, they go on forever. They're infinite. All right, but where do plane KLM, so this plane that's like kind of the front of the box, KLM and QRLM intersect? QRLM. And I want you to write down your idea. Take a second, write it down before I give you the answer. Now, remember that intersect means all the places that they have in common, all the points that they have in common. And so even based on this picture here, I think you can see that they kind of overlap right there along this line LM. Because if it goes on infinitely, it goes on in both directions infinitely. So two planes intersect in a line. In this case, it would be line LM, and we must use the line symbol. All right, so that's a review. Now let's talk number lines, okay? So when we're finding the distance on a number line, we're finding how far you travel from point to point. That's basically if you're finding distance on a number line. It also means you're finding the length, okay? All right, so I want you to write some letters in here. For -3, I'd like you to put X. For -1, I want you to put P and Y, and down here I want you to put Z. Now first of all, you need to realize that this number line is breaking things up by 1. Not every number line has to do that, but you can see the pattern that it is going up by 1, so then this would be 4 and this would be 5. Now if I ask you for the coordinate of a point, so if I say what's the coordinate of Y, it would be 0. The coordinate of X, it would be -3. All right, so if I asked you to find PZ. Remember, if I don't write a symbol above it, that means I want the length. I want the length, okay? That means want the length. All right, I want you to calculate the length any which way you want. All right, so some of you have done that, and some of you might have just counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that is one way to do it. But I want you to think about the numbers 5 and -1 and how they relate to the number 6. Well, some of you might be saying, well, 5 minus 1 doesn't give me 6. And some of you might have said, well, 5 plus 1 gives me 6, but this is a -1. When you're wanting to find distance, one way to do that is to subtract the left coordinate minus the right coordinate, okay? Which would mean 5 minus -1. And that's how we change it to a plus, okay? Another way that you can find distance is you can actually think about the number's absolute value. So you can actually add the absolute value of the numbers, meaning the distance from 0 to 1 is 1 unit. That means the absolute value of -1. Plus 5 is away from 0 is the absolute value of 5. And that would also be a way to get 6. So the reason I don't want you always counting is because what if I give you big numbers like 50 and 72? So a quick way, left coordinate minus right coordinate, that will always give you a positive number. Or take the absolute value of the endpoints and add them together. All right, so let's try it. I want you to take a second and find the distance, just the distance between these points on a number line, using one of the mathematical ways to do it. Take a quick minute, do that, press pause right now, and then come back and we'll check your answers. All right, so you're back. I did, for me, because I always do left minus right, so I did 8 minus -3, which became 8 plus 3 and gave me 11. Then I did 4 minus negative 1, which gave me 4 plus 1, so the distance was 5. I did 2.2 minus negative 2.2, which gave me plus 2.2, which gave me 4.4, okay? This one was a little bit harder. Negative 1/2 and 1/3, I did 1/3 minus negative 1/2, which became plus 1/2. That's nice because now I need a common denominator. So I made the common denominator 6. So I multiplied the left side by 2 over 2 and the right side by 3 over 3. It gave me 2/6 plus 3/6, which was the distance then was 5/6. Yes, we have to work with fractions. All right, now this one was a little bit trickier. So I decided to just do x minus y, but because I don't really know which one's which, I want to make sure I have their absolute value. Okay, so I subtracted them, or you could say the absolute value of x plus the absolute value of y. Either way, you could use either one of those methods. Okay. Now we're going to talk about this coordinate of a midpoint, this coordinate called the midpoint. Now in class we were doing it with segments and we were using algebra, okay? Like we said, this was x plus 1. I'm sorry, this was x, so they were equal to each other. That was the midpoint of the segment. But when we're talking about a number line, we're actually looking for the coordinates of the midpoint. All right, so let's talk about that for a second. If we have the number -3 right here, okay? So -2, -1, 0, and then all the way to 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One way you could, kind of think the middle has to be right in the middle. And what I found a lot of kids did, they did 1, 1, 1, 1. And they worked their way to the middle. 4, 4, 5, 5. And then it worked out to be right in the middle, right about there. And that was 1, 2. It was 3.5. But one way to find the coordinate of the midpoint, if it's directly in the middle, okay, is to find the average of the endpoints. Find the average of the endpoints. Okay? When we want to find something that's directly in the middle of two numbers, that's actually the average. So how do we find average? We add the two numbers. We add the two numbers together and we divide by the number of numbers we have. In this case, it would be 2. So I have -3 plus 8 divided by 2. And that gives me 5 over 2, which is 2.5. Okay? All right, we do the next one. 4 plus a -1, which is 4 minus 1 over 2. That gives me 3/2, which is 1.5. So the coordinate of the midpoint is 1.5. All right. Now this one might seem funny, but it's -2 plus 2.2 plus 2.2 divided by 2. Isn't that 0 over 2? Huh. That means the coordinate of the midpoint is 0 because 0 divided by 2 is 0. Okay? All right. I want to do the one with fractions in class because I want to make sure everybody has it. So I'm going to have you leave that one blank. All right, but now with x and y. If we want to use x and y, it's just helping us develop a formula or a rule that will always work. So we add the endpoints and then we divide by 2. All right, guys, I know this was a little bit long today. Last thing I want us to talk about is postulates versus theorems. I am going to discuss this in class, but a postulate is a statement accepted without proof. We've already done some postulates, the segment addition postulate, okay? And theorems are conjectures that we must prove. They have to be true 100% of the time, okay? And we're going to discuss that tomorrow in class. All right, have a great day.